Welcome to another Seesaw Scenario with the Eric and Mark Playground Rules Phenomenon Show. I heard a rabbi speaking about the shadow of success, and it struck a chord as it relates to the playground. He said, paraphrased, that most people fail to obtain success because they seek to connect with and influence the shadow made by success and those living in it, and not with the essence of it. Let's say that again. That most people fail to obtain success because they seek to connect with and influence the shadow made by success and those living in it, and not with the essence of it. In other words, they fail because they seek to connect with the product of the essence, or the shadow of success, instead of with success itself. A third way to look at it is imagine what would happen if you tried to harvest fruit from the shadow of a fruit tree. I can hear you all asking, how does that apply to the playground rules phenomenon? In this scenario, and under the playground rules phenomenon analogy, the victim seeks approval from the playground executive and most times fails because the playground executive is the shadow or reflection of the bigger systemic issue, which is a system that rewards personality over character. The question at large seems to be on the playground of life, what is the essence and what is the shadow? As those victimized by the playground rules executives seek to connect with real solutions, what would we say the essence of the problem is, and what is the shadow? How say you, Mark?
Eric, this is a really challenging question. The essence of an issue versus the shadow of an issue. I think that people are probably inclined more to challenge the shadow of a problem more than the essence of a problem. Why? Largely because of accessibility. Let's say that a certain mentality that exists within a corporation is kind of a trickle-down effect or a shadow of the essence of the problem, who is upper management or a CEO or somebody, right? So the employees and their behavior and what they prioritize ends up being a shadow of the problem itself rather than the essence. However, even though we have a certain degree or varieties of playground executives in a corporate scenario, let's say the quote-unquote top dog is the CEO. A lot of the people in those different positions may not have access to the CEO. They may not be able to get a response from the CEO. So what do they end up doing? They end up interacting with or expressing concerns with quote-unquote lower levels of management or more direct reports. Those executives in the larger scheme of the corporate playground are more accessible to them. Yet they never get to the root of the problem. Why? Because they don't have access to the CEO or to upper management. That makes it challenging. And you see that in a lot of different situations. So again, because of the fact that those people are more, because the shadow is often more accessible than the essence, sometimes people will challenge the shadow instead of the essence. And to your point, to the rabbi's point, never really resolve anything. And what I think is, that one of the few ways, or one of the one that really comes to mind, is it all comes back to leadership. Enough people have to allow the playground phenomenon, the awareness of it, the acknowledgement of it, to enter into their thinking to want to do something about it. So people in leadership roles, be it anywhere, a leadership role within a home, right? Or people who are influencers on social media, executives in schools, executives in companies, even politicians, whoever it may be, they have to accept the idea that even though they've benefited on certain playgrounds, or certain scenarios, they've also probably suffered in other scenarios where they were not the executive on certain playgrounds. So once they take ownership of that and acknowledge it, they think to themselves, okay, well, we in many cases as leaders or parents or grandparents or even great-grandparents think to themselves, well, wait, what can we do to change the world for the better in terms of having a better world for our future generations? It has to start somewhere, right? We've been doing things a certain way for thousands of years. So now these people use whatever mediums are available to them. Like I said, social media. Maybe they give public speeches, say, hey, gathering groups of people, say, hey, you know what? Personality does not need to be more important than character. Don't favor people just because of personality. Look at who they really are, or let's make things merit-based. Once we have enough people who have acknowledged this concept, embraced this concept, are willing to talk about this concept, and really wants the future of the world to be better, I'm not just talking about the influences of financially or limited resources, coming from the Earth's core, or technology, which is a lot of the emphasis right now. Again, important things, but again, it's not everything. I'm talking about making a better world for the kind of people and the kind of social scenarios and phenomena that exist in that world. Once people are willing to take ownership of that and influence that, they say, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm a person who's 70-something. Again, all ages are worthy of respect, all age groups. But maybe a person who's in their late 70s is a grandparents or great-grandparents, right? Or a parents, and they're thinking about the future generations to say, well, you know what, things weren't always so good in our lives because we're playing some kind of role on some kind of playground somewhere, and probably in multiple playgrounds. So how can we make a better world for our children, right? It's not just about inventions and technology and finances, right? It's about how people treat each other. And that has to start from somewhere. What people prioritize, where their morals are, that has to start from the homes. That has to start from the tops of the businesses. That has to happen with leaders. Once that happens, then eventually you get to the essence of the problem. And once you start addressing that, then people start gradually. Again, it may take a few generations for this to happen. You start gradually thinking, well, you know what? Maybe personality is not more important than character, or maybe merit is more important than knowing the right people in the right places. I think that it will take several generations. The seed needs to be planted somewhere. May as well plant it now, and may as well start spreading the word. That's my take on the essence of addressing the essence of a problem versus the shadow of a problem, and our different takes and discussions on why the playground phenomenon exists and what we can do to challenge it and have a trickle-down effect from now into the future.